Hi, and welcome to this week's broadcast. On the 23rd of February, a consultation was launched proposing one of the most significant shifts in the special educational needs and disabilities landscape since 2014. At its heart sits the introduction of individual support plans, and they are a plan that is designed to be available without a fight. For many families who've experienced years of adversarial processes to secure support, that phrase would land heavily. But as always, it's important to look beyond the headline. We need to look at what it means in practice and whether it will improve outcomes for children. So I'm just going to run through what is under these proposals. So education, health and care plans will be retained and strengthened. Individual support plans will sit beneath them, offering a structured, school-led support that's easier to access. And then there is what is called a triple lock of transitional protections, which is promised so that no child should lose effective support that is already in place. Now, digitisation of EHCPs and ISPs is aimed to reduce bureaucracy and increase transparency. The tribunal, the Special Educational Needs and Disabilities Tribunal, remains there as a legal backstop. So this white paper, the government's white paper, Every Child Achieving and Thriving, sets out an ambition for inclusive system which is designed to be broad enough to meet all children's needs, and the financial commitments that are promised are as follows: £200 million to train teachers and support staff, 60,000 more specialist places, £1.8 billion to provide experts at hand, such as educational psychologists, and then what is being described as multi-billion pound investment in therapies and small group teaching. So the Children's Commissioner has described this as an opportunity to rebuild trust with families and prioritise children's rights, rather than perpetuate a system that has failed them for far too long. And the Council for Disabled Children has welcomed the vision, and equally the vision and the retention of the statutory EHCP protections. So the clear intention is about engagement rather than conflict, and for that earlier support rather than escalation. However, a number of concerns are already emerging. This will be the discussion point throughout this consultation process. So the first one is the weakening of legal rights. So some are fearing that ISPs, which aren't statutory in the same way as EHCPs, could become a replacement rather than that gateway, and that they would reduce legally binding protections. And of course, the workload and capacity issue. Will SENCOs and teachers be able to manage potentially high volumes of ISPs without increasing administrative strain? Then we have conflict and accountability. So if you've got a three-tiered structure, it could unintentionally increase disputes between parents and schools if clarity isn't in place. Then, of course, there's the question of funding adequacy. Is that funding that's been set out sufficient to enable mainstream schools to support complex needs without impacting other pupils? Now, in terms of the consultation lawfulness itself, there have been legal challenges launched about whether the process itself is fair and rational. In terms of diagnosis and access, the question has been asked about how children would receive swift support without a formal diagnosis. Now, it is worth noting that the current legislation, the existing 2014 legislation, does already allow support without a diagnosis. So organisations such as the Independent Provider of Special Education Advice and campaign groups like Save Our Children's Rights have raised concerns that it could be about cost containment rather than systemic improvement. So what does it mean from a safeguarding perspective? What we want to look at is whether it does reduce adversarial processes, whether it does increase early intervention, whether accountability is well clarified, does it strengthen children's rights or dilute them? But obviously, from a safeguarding perspective, the promise that no child should fear losing support is a powerful one in reassurance terms. But we must acknowledge that families who have experienced years of tribunal battles will need more than reassurance. They'll need consistent practice, transparent decision making, this genuine sense of partnership. And of course, we know that in safeguarding, trust is rebuilt through action and testing out, proposals through the system. It can't be policy alone.